The wind whistles through the jagged stones of the whispering crags, a sound like 1,000 morning voices. You pull your olive green cloak tighter against the chill, the leather of your corset creaking slightly as you move. Beside you, Youssef adjusts the jeweled belt at his waist, his green eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the pursuers who forced you both into these treacherous heights.
The air feels heavy here, Wyndra. More so than usual. It's as if the great sundering never truly ended in these peaks.
You look at him, nodding the way his exotic silks flutter in the sharp breeze. He looks out of place among the sharp rocks, a remnant of a more refined world, yet his hand rests steadily on the hilt of his blade.
It's just the wind, Youssef. We need to reach the Iron Peaks before nightfall if we want to find the resistance. We can't let the Duke's men catch us in the open.
Suddenly, a stone tumbles from the ridge above. You both freeze. A figure draped in gray rags crouches on a ledge, watching you with eyes that glow with a faint, unnatural blue light.
The Iron Peaks are closed to your kind, Princess, unless you have the toll.
The scavenger remains perched above you, his glowing eyes darting between you and Youssef. He doesn't look like a soldier, but in these lands, a desperate man with a bit of wild magic can be just as deadly as a knight. He seems to know who you are, or at least what you represent. The wind howls through the jagged spires of the whispering crags, carrying your sharp words like a challenge. You shift your weight, your hand hovering near the dagger at your hip. Beside you, Youssef's posture stiffens, his silks snapping in the gale as he prepares for a potential skirmish.
We are not here to pay for passage. Step aside, or we will force our way through.
The scavenger, Kalen, tilts his head. The blue light in his eyes pulses with a sudden, rhythmic intensity, reflecting the volatile magic that still scars these peaks. He doesn't move to attack, but a low, rattling chuckle escapes his throat, sounding more like dry stones rubbing together than a human laugh.
Force? In the crags, force is a lead weight that pulls you into the abyss. But I like your fire, Princess.
It reminds me of the old world, before the sky broke.
He stands up, his tattered gray cloak billowing around his lean frame like smoke. With a nimble leap that defies his haggard appearance, he descends the rock face, landing silently on the gravel path a few paces in front of you.
Stay back, scavenger. We have no quarrel with you, but we will not be delayed.
Kalen ignores Youssef, his glowing gaze fixed entirely on you. He reaches into the folds of his rags and produces a small, humming shard of obsidian, a fragment of a sundered artifact. It glows with the same eerie blue light as his eyes, vibrating with enough raw power to make the air taste like ozone.
The Duke's hounds are closer than you think. They don't want your head. They want what's in your blood. If you won't pay in gold, pay in information. Tell me why the heir to a dead throne seeks the Iron Peaks, and I might show you the path that doesn't end in an ambush.
Kalen holds the humming shard toward you, its magical resonance making your skin prickle. He's offering a trade of secrets rather than coin, but trusting a man who looks half consumed by the wilds is a dangerous gamble. Behind you, the faint sound of iron boots clambering over stone echoes from the pass below. The Duke's scouts have found your trail. The air crackles with the obsidian shard's resonance, but you don't flinch. You step into Kalen's personal space, the leather of your boots grinding against the loose shale. Your hand rests firmly on the hilt of your dagger, your amber eyes narrowed with a cold, regal fury that seems to momentarily dim the blue glow of his artifact.
My reasons are my own. Move, or the Duke's men will find your corpse first.
Kalen's lips thin into a jagged line, his glowing eyes flickering as he weighs the steel in your voice against the approaching clatter of armored boots from the valley below. He pulls the shard back into the shadows of his rags, the humming silence that follows feeling even more ominous than the noise.
Sharp tongue for a fallen bird. Fine. Keep your secrets until they choke you.
With a fluid, haunting movement, the scavenger vanishes into a crevice between the towering rocks, his gray cloak blending perfectly with the sun-bleached stone. He is gone before Youssef can even raise his blade.
Wyndra, look, below the ridge.
You turn to see the glint of polished steel. 6 men in the Duke's crimson tabards are scrambling up the primary path, their heavy crossbows already leveled. The wind in the crags suddenly shifts, howling a mournful note that signals the end of stealth. You and Youssef bolt toward the only remaining path, a terrifyingly narrow stone bridge that sways in the gale. The Duke's scouts crest the ridge behind you, the leader shouting an order to fire. A bolt whistles past your ear, sparking against the stone. You reach the center of the bridge, the height making the world spin, while the scouts begin to reload. Youssef draws his curved blade, his silks whipping violently in the wind as he looks to you for the command. You plant your feet on the swaying stone of the High Spire, the wind whipping your olive green cloak around you like a battle standard. Instead of fleeing, you draw your blade, the steel singing as it clears the sheath. The narrowness of the bridge, once a terrifying hazard, is now your greatest ally. Only one man can reach you at a time.
Let them come. They can't use their numbers on this narrow ledge.
Youssef's eyes widen in surprise, but a fierce, knowing smile quickly replaces his worry. He steps up beside you, his curved blade catching the bruised purple light of the sky.
A stand it is then. Let's see if their training holds up when the abyss is watching.
The lead scout, a grizzled man in a scarred crimson tabard, charges onto the bridge with a roar, his short sword raised. Behind him, the others are forced to wait, their crossbows useless now that their comrade is in the line of fire. You meet the scout's first overhead strike with a bone-jarring parry, the vibration traveling up your arms. With a grunt of effort, you kick out, your sturdy leather boot catching the scout in the chest. He stumbles back, his eyes wide with sudden terror as his heel slips on the slick stone. He flails, his heavy armor pulling him toward the edge.
The crags don't care for your Duke.
The scout vanishes into the mist with a fatting scream. The second soldier hesitates, his boots scraping against the bridge as he stares at the empty space where his leader stood. Youssef seizes the opening, lunging forward with a fluid, exotic strike that forces the man to choose between the blade and the drop. The remaining 4 scouts are shouting to each other, realizing the bridge is a death trap. One of them drops his sword and reaches for a heavy iron pot at his belt, alchemist's fire. If he throws it, the bridge might hold, but you and Youssef will be trapped in a conflagration with nowhere to run. The scout fumbles with a flint, his fingers shaking as he tries to ignite the wick of the volatile alchemist's fire. You don't give him the heartbeat he needs. Lunging forward, your leather boots find purchase on the slick, narrow stone, your movement a blur of olive green and dark leather.
Not today.
You swing the hilt of your blade in a tight arc, slamming it against the soldier's wrist. The iron pot flies from his grip, spinning into the misty void below. He gasps, his eyes wide with a sudden, paralyzing fear, as he realizes he is unarmed and face-to-face with the heir of Oralia.
Beautifully done, Wyndra. The rest are faltering.
The remaining scouts recoil, their boots scraping against the bridge as the loss of their primary weapon shatters their resolve. Behind them, the wind howls through the crags, sounding like a chorus of spectral ancestors cheering your defiance. The two men at the rear of the line exchange a panicked glance, their heavy armor suddenly feeling like a burial shroud in this high, precarious place. Fall back to the ridge, we can't hold the span. They begin a clumsy retreat, tripping over each other in their haste to reach solid ground. You stand at the center of the swaying bridge, your chest heaving, the adrenaline singing in your veins.
Let them run. They'll tell their master that the mountains belong to us now.
Youssef shears through the air with a final, flourish-filled pass of his blade before sheathing it. He wipes a bead of sweat from his brow, his green eyes bright with the thrill of the victory. He looks at you, his expression softening into something more personal as the immediate danger fades.
I have seen many things in my travels, Wyndra, but the way you commanded that bridge, it was like watching a legend wake up.
The scouts have vanished back into the jagged rocks of the pass, leaving you and Youssef alone on the High Spire. The wind has died down to a gentle whistle, and the bruised purple of the sky is beginning to deepen into a twilight indigo. Youssef steps closer, the gold embroidery on his robes catching the last of the light. The adrenaline of the skirmish begins to ebb, replaced by a rhythmic pulse in your veins that feels far more intimate. You let your blade slide home into its sheath with a metallic snick that echoes off the canyon walls. Stepping closer to Youssef, you ignore the dizzying drop beneath the stone bridge, focusing instead on the way the twilight air softens his features.
I couldn't have held it without you at my back.
Youssef doesn't look away. The green of his eyes seems to deepen in the fading light, reflecting a mix of relief and something more fervent. He reaches out, his fingers brushing against the olive-green fabric of your cloak before settling briefly on your shoulder. The warmth of his hand seeps through the leather of your corset, a steadying presence in the howling wilderness.
You underestimate yourself, Wyndra. You are the fire this broken world needs to keep from freezing over. I am merely the one lucky enough to be standing near the flame.
He lets his hand linger a moment too long for mere comradeship, his thumb tracing the edge of your cloak's collar. The wind picks up again, tugging at his maroon robes and your dark hair, but for a heartbeat, the distance between you feels much smaller than the span of the bridge.
A poet and a swordsman. The Duke's men never stood a chance against that combination.
He laughs softly, the sound rich and warm against the cold mountain air. He begins to pull his hand back, but his gaze remains fixed on yours, searching for a sign of what comes next. The danger of the scouts has passed, leaving a heavy, expectant silence between you. The High Spire feels less like a battlefield and more like a sanctuary above the clouds. Youssef waits, his breath hitching slightly as he watches your expression. As Youssef begins to retreat his hand, you move with the same decisive grace that won the bridge. You reach up, your fingers wrapping around his wrist and pressing his palm back against your shoulder. The contrast is sharp, the rough, travel-worn leather of your gear against the warmth of his skin. Through the thin fabric of his sleeve, you can feel his pulse jump, a frantic, rhythmic thrumming that matches your own.
Don't pull away just yet. The wind is cold. But this is not.
Youssef freezes, his breath catching in his throat. The surprise in his green eyes melts into a profound, shimmering vulnerability. He turns his hand within your grasp, interlacing his fingers with yours, his thumb tracing the back of your hand with a reverence that makes the breath hitch in your own lungs.
I have spent my life chasing beauty in art and song, Wyndra, but standing here, with the world broken at our feet, and your hand in mine, I realize I've been looking in the wrong places.
He steps closer, closing the final gap until the scent of exotic spices and sandalwood from his robes envelopes you, masking the metallic tang of the mountain air. He tilts his head, his gaze dropping to your lips for a fraction of a second before returning to your eyes, asking a silent, weighted question. The High Spire sways gently beneath you, a cradle of stone suspended between the stars and the abyss. The threat of the Duke's men feels a lifetime away, replaced by the heat radiating between the two of you. Youssef's hand trembles slightly in yours, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of the moment.